My mom forgot dessert for my son and said, "Only family gets to eat." My name is Nadia. I am 33 years old and a single mom. And I learned the hard way that in my family, the word family really means we control you. On Christmas Eve, I was standing in my parents' living room, watching my son stand near the dessert table in his little blue sweater, his cheeks red from running around with his cousins. My mom picked up the last slice of Christmas cake, looked straight at him, then turned to the room and said, "Only family gets to eat." She laughed. My sister's kids giggled, their plates already piled with second helpings, and everyone went right back to talking, like my child had not just been told he did not belong. My son swallowed, forced a small smile, and whispered, "I'm not hungry anyway." I saw his eyes shine. In that moment, something in me snapped into place. I did not shout. I did not throw the plate. I did not make a scene. I took a slow breath, walked over, and told him to get his coat. While my mom called after us, "Where are you going?" I said, "We have everything we need at home." Then I closed the door on the smell of turkey and gravy and the sound of their laughter. I thought that would be the worst part of the night. The very next morning, my phone lit up with 25 missed calls from my mom and one panicked voicemail about how they're freezing everything and how I needed to call her back right now. I stared at the screen for a long time. I felt years of guilt and duty finally burn away. When I did answer hours later, all I said was, "Shh, you told us we're not family. You remember." If you have ever watched someone use the word family like a weapon instead of a promise, stay with me. Because that one slice of dessert was only the beginning of how my parents lost their money, their image, and both of their children. That night, after I closed the door on my parents' perfect Christmas, I drove home in tight, angry silence. My son stared out of the car window. His name is Omar. He is 9. He kept drawing little circles in the fog on the glass like he was trying not to cry. When we walked into our small townhouse in Houston, I hung up our coats, tried to sound normal, and told him we were going to make our own dessert. I warmed milk, stirred in cocoa, sprayed the last of a can of whipped cream, and handed him a mug of hot chocolate. He curled up on the couch under a blanket. I put on one of those silly Christmas movies on Netflix, the kind where everyone forgives years of hurt in the last 5 minutes. Halfway through, Omar said, "Mom, did I do something wrong?" I paused the movie and sat next to him. "No," I said. "You did everything right. What Grandma said tonight was wrong, not you." He stared down into his mug. "She said only family gets dessert," he whispered. "Are we not family?" My chest hurt. "We are," I told him. "You and me. We are a family. One day you'll understand that just having the same last name doesn't give anyone the right to decide who matters. For now, I just need you to know none of this is your fault." He nodded, but I saw the way he folded the hurt and hid it, the way children do when they realize the grown-ups are not going to fix it. When he finally fell asleep on the couch, I carried him to bed, tucked him in, and then sat alone in the dark hallway. I had spent years swallowing moments like this when they were about me. Watching them humiliate my child flipped a switch I didn't know I still had. The next morning, my alarm rang at 7. For a few seconds, I forgot about the party. Then I grabbed my phone and saw it. 25 missed calls from Mum and one new voicemail. I made coffee, pressed play, and listened. "Nadia, you need to call me back," her voice snapped. "They're freezing everything. The lawyer says if we don't move fast, we could lose the house and our pension. You cannot just ignore this. You are part of this family whether you like it or not." That was it. Not one word about Omar, not one word about dessert, or not one word about telling her grandson he was not family. Just fear about money and property and whatever she meant by freezing everything. I stood barefoot on the cold kitchen tiles and thought about how many times my parents had dressed control up as concern. After my divorce, my dad once suggested putting his name on the deed to my house. "Just to help with the mortgage," he said. "So it's easier for the family." I said no. He acted like I had punched him. Since then, money and property have been his favorite tools. Now here we were again. But this time, the thing he was afraid of losing was tied to my name. I did not call my mom back. I sent a text instead. You made it clear last night that my son and I are not family. Please deal with your house and your retirement with your lawyer. Then I blocked her number. But not forever, just long enough to stop the constant buzzing and hear my own thoughts. About an hour later, my phone lit up with a different name. Yusuf, my older brother. He almost never called unless our parents were sitting right there. I answered anyway. "What happened last night?" he asked. "Mom is panicking. Dad is walking up and down talking about lawyers and ungrateful children." I told him what happened at the dessert table. I repeated my mother's exact words. On the other end, he went quiet. "I saw him standing there," he said softly. I told myself I was overreacting, that Mom was just tired. I did what I always do. I let it go. Of course he did. Yusuf had spent his whole life smoothing things over, pretending our parents' worst moments were just jokes. "I'm not asking you to fix them," I said. "I'm just done letting them wave the word family like a rope around my neck. They want my name on their papers and their trust and their house, but they can't even give my kid a slice of cake. If we're not family at the table, we're not family at the bank." There was a long pause. Then he said something I did not expect. "Okay," he said. "Tell me what you want me to do." That was the moment this stopped being about dessert and started being about their legacy. When I blocked my mom's mobile, I thought I might get a day or two of peace. I forgot one thing. My parents' love and audience. A few hours after I talked with Yusuf, I was scrolling through Facebook while Omar played a game in the living room. There it was, a new post from my mom right at the top. A picture of my parents' lounge, the Christmas tree glowing, on the table full of food, my sister Lena standing there with her kids in matching pajamas, everyone smiling like a TV advert. The caption said, "Feeling so blessed for family this year, nothing matters more." My stomach turned. I zoomed in on the photo automatically, looking for myself, looking for Omar, even though I already knew. We were not there. The angle made it clear the photo had been taken after we left, like they had pointed the camera on purpose to cut us out. I stared at the words, "so blessed for family," and heard her voice from the night before. "Only family gets to eat." My phone buzzed. A text from Lena. "Why did you leave last night?" she wrote. "Mom said Omar was being difficult." I sat there for a minute, choosing my words. "You saw what happened with dessert," I typed back. "She looked at my kid and told him only family gets to eat. Then she gave your kids more." The typing dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, she replied, "You're overreacting. It was a joke. You know how Mom is. You can't destroy the whole family over one awkward comment." That was the problem. To Lena, it was always one comment, one joke, one moment, never a pattern. She had grown up as the golden child, the one they bragged about, the one they rescued. I had grown up as the warning sign. I didn't argue, I just wrote back. If it was a joke, it was at my son's cost. I'm finished letting them laugh at him. Then I set my phone down and took an old notebook from the kitchen drawer, the one I used for shopping lists and half-done plans. On the first clean page, I wrote the date. And then I started writing down every time I could remember my parents choosing favorites or using money to control us. The time they skipped Omar's birthday party to take Lena and her kids to the beach house. The time they told me I should be grateful they watched Omar for one weekend, then used it later when I wouldn't co-sign a loan. The time my dad joked again that it would be easier if my house was in his name, for taxes, for the family, for our future. Seeing it all in black ink made me feel less crazy. It was not just one dessert. It was a lifetime of being told I was too loud, too emotional, too independent, and now my 9-year-old was being handed the same script. Later that day, Yusuf texted and asked if we could meet in person, somewhere that wasn't our parents' house. We picked a small coffee shop a few streets from mine, with foggy windows and people working on laptops. He was already there when I walked in, a half-finished coffee in front of him, fingers tapping on the table. "You look tired," he said quietly when I sat down. "Welcome," I said. "This is what it looks like when you finally stop pretending." I told him about the Facebook post, the caption, how Omar and I had been erased from the picture. He shook his head. "I saw the post," he admitted. "I didn't notice you weren't in it until you said it. That's how deep this is." "They can cut us out and still tell themselves they're good people," I said. He leaned back and rubbed his face. Then he told me what he had learned from talking to our parents' lawyer. There was a family trust and a little web of companies around the family holiday cottage on the coast and some other things. My name was still on one of the property papers as a co-owner from years ago when I had helped pay for a new roof. Suddenly, freezing everything made more sense. Dad called the lawyer the day after Christmas, Yusuf said. He wanted to protect certain people, his words. The lawyer told him he couldn't just move things without telling all the owners, so they might have to freeze some paperwork until you replied. That's why Mom rang you all morning. They're not scared of losing me, I said. They're scared of losing my signature. Yusuf nodded, looking a bit sick. They always thought you'd never really walk away, he said. You've always been the one paying your own way, raising Omar alone. They assumed you'd never touch the trust. They thought they had me and Lana hooked in, and you'd just float around the edges forever. I'm not trying to steal anything, I said. I just don't want my name used as their safety net when they can't even be kind to my child. I want whatever part is mine to be protected from their games, so it goes to Omar someday without strings. He stared at the table for a long time. Then he looked up. I can talk to a different lawyer, he said. Not theirs. Someone who works for us. We can find out your options and mine. But you need to know, if we do this, we can't pretend everything is okay. I thought about Omar at the dessert table, about his little voice asking if we were family. I thought about my mom's voicemail, full of fear for her pension and silent about my son. Good, I said. Your normal was killing me. 2 days after that coffee, I got an email that made my stomach twist before I even opened it. Subject: Family Trust Matters, with my parents' lawyer's name under it. The tone was exactly what I expected, polite and bossy at the same time. Dear Ms. Rahman, it began, your parents have informed me that you may be considering changes to your participation in the family trust and related property interests. It went on about possible tax penalties, long-term planning, and how sudden moves could put your parents' security at risk. It included lines like, it would be in the best interest of the family if you refrained from any hasty decisions. And your parents have always had your financial security at heart. Reading it, you would think I was some careless teenager, or not a woman who had paid her own bills and raised a kid for almost a decade. I read it twice, then forwarded it to the independent lawyer Yusuf had found with a short note. Is this really about taxes, or is it pressure? When he phoned back, he didn't try to soften it. Some of what he wrote is technically true, the lawyer said. Yes, moving property can affect taxes, but if he was really worried about you, he'd offer you choices, not try to scare you. This is pressure. He confirmed what Yusuf had said. My name on the deed for the seaside cottage meant nothing major could happen with it without my yes, and his firm had to keep me informed. Honestly, he added, if they're working this hard to stop you asking questions, you should definitely be asking. With his help, I wrote my own email, not as the scared daughter. As a co-owner, I typed, I am fully aware of my legal interest in the coastal property and any linked companies. I do not consent to any sale, lease, refinance, or restructuring involving these assets without my written approval. I also request a full accounting of all transactions related to the property and family trust for the last 5 years, sent directly to me. From now on, please direct all communication about my interest to me or my lawyer, not only through my parents. It felt strange to see those words on the screen, like I was pretending to be powerful, but really I was just using rights I already had. I hit send and went back to loading the dishwasher. It took less than an hour for my mum to try another route. Blocking her mobile had slowed her down, not stopped her. This time, it was a voicemail from the old landline in their kitchen. Her voice was high and wet, like she'd been crying. Nadia, what are you doing? She said. Your father is beside himself. The lawyer says you're making everything complicated. Do you know what you're risking? Then her tone changed and something slipped. That cottage is our retirement, she said. We put our whole lives into giving you kids something to fall back on. And this is how you thank us? By freezing everything because your son had to hear no one time. My jaw tightened. She still didn't say his name. She didn't say, I'm sorry I hurt him. She said, your son had to hear no one time, like she had refused another biscuit, not told him he was not family in front of everyone. Then she said the part that really burned. He needs to learn respect, Nadia. You are too soft on him. This is why we have to be hard sometimes, so he doesn't grow up like you." I played that part twice, just to be sure. In her mind, not growing up like me meant knowing his place in their line early. I sent the voicemail text to Yusuf. He called almost at once, his voice tight. "She really said that?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "She only got scared when she thought she might lose the cottage, not when she realized what she said to her grandson." He let out a long breath. "I'm done going over there for now," he said. "I can't keep acting like this is normal. They rang me twice this morning to complain about you, not once to ask how Omar is." "Good," I answered. "Let them sit with themselves." Later that day, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Lena. "So now you've brought lawyers into it," she wrote. "You're punishing Mom and Dad for planning something for us. Just admit you're bitter they trusted me with it." She truly believed that. In her world, being the chosen one meant pride and power. In mine, it meant my son was left standing at a table with empty hands. "I'm not jealous of being the favorite," I wrote back. "I'm tired of being the backup. They only came to me when their money was touched, not when they broke my child's heart. I'm not the one turning family into a business deal. I'm just done being the payment." Then I put my phone face down. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for their approval before I protected myself. About a week after that retirement voicemail, right when I thought maybe they had run out of ideas, they did the thing I should have guessed. They took it online. I was helping Omar with his spelling at the kitchen table when I got a notification. An event invite from my mom. The title, Family Healing Dinner. The description said something like, "After a hard season, we believe in forgiveness and second chances. Nothing is more important than family coming back together." She had posted a picture with it, our parents' house, lights everywhere, the tree glowing in the front window, a wreath on the door. The guest list showed neighbors, people from their mosque, my sister and her kids, some old family friends, and of course my brother. One name was missing, mine. People were already commenting, "So beautiful. You two are such an example. Love how you always keep family close." I could almost feel my mom smiling as she read them. A moment later, Yusuf sent me a screenshot. "You seeing this?" he wrote. "Yes," I replied. "It seems I'm invited to make up, just not tagged." "They called me twice about it," he said. "They're acting like they're the hurt ones. Do you want to go?" I stared at that question. Part of me wanted to stay home and ignore their show. But I knew if I didn't go, they would tell everyone their version. The daughter who cut them off for no reason, the poor grandparents who tried everything. No one would hear about the dessert. "If we don't go, they control the story," I finally typed. "If we do, at least we can tell the truth." "Okay," he wrote back. On the night of the dinner, I left Omar with our kind neighbor from down the street. I was not going to put him back in that house. As I drove up, the whole street looked like a picture. Lights, plastic reindeer, cars everywhere. From the path, I could already hear music and loud laughing. Inside, the living room was full. Neighbors with wine glasses, friends from the mosque. Lena by the tree, her kids racing past people's legs. My mom saw me in the doorway. For a second, true shock crossed her face. Then she put on a bright smile and walked over, speaking loudly enough for others to hear. "You came," she said. "I knew you wouldn't stay upset forever." I didn't hug her back. Yusuf came to stand beside me. A few minutes later, my dad tapped a spoon on a glass. "Can I have everyone's attention?" he called. "Thank you all for coming. It's been a hard year, but we are grateful to have our family and friends together." My mom dabbed at her eyes. "Family means everything to us," she said. "Sometimes there are misunderstandings, but in the end, blood is blood." My shoulders tensed. There it was again. Blood. Yusuf looked at me, then stepped forward. "Funny," he said, speaking clearly, "because last week you looked your 9-year-old grandson in the eyes and told him, 'Only family gets to eat.'" The room went silent. My mom froze, tissue halfway to her face. My dad's smile slipped. Yusuf did not stop. "On Christmas, Mom took the last piece of cake," he said. She told Nadia's child he wasn't family. Then she gave my sister's kids seconds while he stood there trying not to cry. And when Nadia left, you rang her more than 20 times the next morning. Not to say sorry, but because the lawyer told you you might lose control of the cottage and trust if she didn't sign what you wanted. Near the sofa, one of our neighbors, Mrs. Kahn from across the road, spoke up. "I heard it," she said quietly. "I was there. That wasn't a misunderstanding. That was cruel." A few people looked at her, then at my parents. My mum grabbed the first excuse she could find. "I was joking," she said quickly. "You all know me. Kids now are too sensitive. I would never mean that." She turned to me, her voice shaking, too loud. "Tell them, Nadia," she said. "Tell them you know I didn't mean it." Every face turned toward me. For a second, I felt that old pull to make it easier, to laugh and say, "It's fine, Mum, we understand." Then I saw Omar in my mind, his hands beside that table. "No," I said clearly. "You meant it. You've been meaning it my whole life. You meant it when you skipped his birthday to go to the cottage with Lena. You meant it when you told people he's not really like the other grandkids because he doesn't stay here every holiday. Christmas was just the first time you said it where everyone could hear." My dad slammed his glass down too hard. "We built all of this for you ungrateful children," he burst out. "This house, that cottage, the trust, our savings, everything we have is for you. And this is how you repay us, by making us look bad in front of our friends." I shook my head. "You didn't build this for us," I said. "You built it so you could keep us on a leash. You only called me when the lawyer said my name was in your way. You never called once to ask how Omar was after you heard him. That's not love. That's pressure." The room was so quiet I could hear the boiler click on. My mum looked around at the faces in the room that she had invited to watch her be the strong mother. For once, she did not see just praise. She saw doubt. "You're tearing our family apart," she said, voice breaking. "You're destroying our legacy, after everything we've done, all because your child had to hear no once." I felt strangely calm. "You tore it apart yourself," I answered. "The moment you decided a 9-year-old's feelings were less important than your pride and your money, we're just finally saying it out loud." No one moved. Then Yusuf put his hand on my shoulder. "We're going," he said. We turned and walked out while our parents stood frozen in the center of their perfect room, surrounded by people who were no longer clapping for them. Later that night, the local WhatsApp group was full of messages. I didn't know they talked to their grandson like that. That was hard to watch. My parents finally got the audience they wanted. They just didn't get the story they'd planned. In the days after that healing dinner, things grew quiet again. No calls, no emails, no new Facebook posts with quotes about forgiveness. Just a heavy pause. I used that time to finish the work I had started with our lawyer. He sent me a clear report of the trust and the small companies around the seaside cottage. For the first time, I saw my name the way my parents saw it, not as an annoyance, as a key. The paper showed that nothing big could happen with that property without every owner agreeing, including me. With the lawyer's help, I signed forms that separated my share from my parents' day-to-day control. My piece of the cottage and any money from it was now tied to me and later to Omar. Any sale, loan, or new deal would need my yes. "You're not taking anything that isn't already yours," the lawyer said. "You're just making sure nobody uses your name in a way you don't choose." Yusuf went further. As someone named in parts of the trust, he chose to delay or limit some future payments that would go straight to our parents. Nothing illegal, nothing mean, just clear lines that meant they couldn't keep spending like there would always be another check. When everything was done, the numbers told a story my parents had never imagined. The cottage was no longer a simple cash machine. The trust was no longer a stick to frighten us with. Soon, word must have reached them, because their next move wasn't online. It was a knock on my front door on a gray Saturday afternoon. I looked through the peephole and saw them. My dad holding a tin of biscuits, my mum clutching a tissue. For a second, my stomach turned. Then I remembered that cake, that table, my son's face. The feeling went flat. I opened the door just wide enough to stand there. "We need to talk," my mum started at once, voice soft now, not shrill. "We can't let lawyers come between us. This has gone too far." Dad nodded like he'd practiced. "Family doesn't drag family into legal messes," he added. "Family sorts things out in private." I I haven't taken anyone to court, I said. I just stopped letting you use my name without asking. You called the lawyer before you ever asked how Omar was. That's what came between us. My mom stepped a bit closer, hand half reaching out. We were upset, she said. We were scared. Your father worked his whole life for that house and that cottage. We were only trying to protect our retirement and something for you kids. You mean something for the kids who do what you want, I said. The ones who don't ever say no. My dad's mouth went tight. You are throwing away your inheritance over a joke and a piece of cake, he said. This is childish, Nadia. No, I said, and my voice was steady. This isn't about cake. It's about every time you chose control over kindness and then called it love. Every time you used money to pull us back in line. Christmas was just the first time you said what you really think of my child in front of everyone. My mom's eyes flashed. You'll be sorry when we're gone, she said. One day you'll wish you hadn't turned your brother against us or cut off our future. I shook my head. Yusuf made his own choice, I said. I didn't steal your future. I only stopped letting you build it on my son's back. You keep talking about your legacy like it's houses and bank accounts. The only legacy I care about is what Omar learns from all this. My dad lifted the biscuit tin like a peace gift. Can we at least come in and see him? He said. He's our grandson. He's my son, I answered. And until you can look him in the eyes and apologize without excuses, you don't get time with him. Or with me. Or with my signature. Right now, you are not safe people for him. That matters more than any house or trust. My mum flinched at the word unsafe like I had hit her. But even then she didn't say, I'm sorry for what I said to Omar. She circled the same lines again. Everything they'd given, how hard they'd worked, how unfair we were. I knew this place. The point where they would rather feel like victims than be honest. I'm not doing this anymore, I said. You don't get to hurt my child and then hide behind the word legacy. You are not my legacy. You are my warning, and I'm done going in circles. Before they could answer, I stepped back and shut the door. I stood there for a minute, hand on the knob, listening. I heard my mum crying, my dad saying something about ungrateful. Then their steps going down the stairs, a car door closing, and engine starting. Inside, it was quiet. No ringing phone, no pounding on the door, just the sound of Lego bricks in Omar's room and his soft humming as he built something new. He didn't know that. Outside his world, the people who had taken dessert from him were finally learning what it felt like to lose control. In the weeks after I closed that door, nothing big or dramatic happened. That was the strange part. No more long voicemails about lawyers, no posts about forgiveness, no group messages trying to guilt me into holiday dinners, just quiet. For the first time in my life, my phone could sit on the counter all day without buzzing like a bomb. At first, the silence felt wrong, like I should be doing something, reaching out, fixing it again. Every time that feeling came, I pictured Omar standing at that table, and the feeling went away. A few days later, Yusuf came over with pizza and a couple of cheap Christmas films to stream. But he walked in like someone who had been holding his breath for years and finally let it out. Omar's face lit up. He dragged his uncle straight to the living room to show him a Lego cottage he had built. It's the seaside cottage, he announced, but my version. On top, with little bricks, he had made a tiny sign. No unkind people allowed. Yusuf laughed so hard he had tears in his eyes. I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen my brother laugh like that without checking the doorway to see if our parents were watching. We ate slices of pizza on the couch, sauce on paper plates, fizzy drinks sweating on the table, no one worrying about spilling on the carpet, no one judging our family image. In the film, one character gave a big speech about how family is everything. Omar turned to me and asked, "Does that mean you have to stay even when they're mean?" I muted the TV. No, I said. Family is supposed to be the people who make you feel safe and loved, not the ones who decide your place. Sometimes those people are the ones you're related to. Sometimes they're not. He thought about it. So, Grandma and Grandpa are not our family? He asked slowly. They're our relatives, I said. But right now, they aren't acting like family. Real family shows up when it matters, listens when they're wrong, and says sorry Blood doesn't give anyone a free pass to hurt you forever." He nodded, like I had just given him a new rule book that made more sense than the old one. Later that night, after Yusuf left and Omar was asleep, I sat with a cup of tea and thought about all the times my parents had used the word legacy. They meant houses and holiday places and money. They meant a story where they were heroes, and we were the children who never understood how much they sacrificed. The funny thing is, the moment their money stopped moving how they wanted, their kind of love went with it. They had said for years that if I walked away, I would become cold and selfish. Instead, what I found was warmth. Not the fake kind from a crowded house and perfect photos. The real kind that comes from being able to look at my child and know I had finally chosen him and myself over someone else's image. I heard from neighbors that my parents' social diary got quieter. Some friends still visited, others slowly stopped. The cottage by the sea sat empty more often that winter, not because they couldn't go, but because it was no longer a stage for the right grandchildren. They still had their house and their things and their frames on the wall, but the crowd they had built their lives around was smaller. For the first time, they had to sit with what they had really done. Maybe one day they'll learn how to say, "I'm sorry," without adding "but." Maybe not. That is not my job anymore. My job is the little boy asleep down the hall and what he learns from all this. I want him to know that love without respect is not love, that he is allowed to walk away from people who hurt him, even if the world says, "but they're family," that keeping his peace is not selfish, it is how he stays whole. I did not burn my family to the ground. I just stepped out of the fire and stopped calling it home. If any of this feels familiar to you, if you have ever been told to keep the peace while someone slowly chipped away at your dignity, even in the name of family, I hope you know this. You are not crazy. You are not ungrateful. You are not alone. Have you ever had to step back from someone toxic, even if they shared your last name? And how did you finally know it was time to walk away?